Thank you. Pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks for the invite, indeed.
Yeah, we were just talking in Spanish, and now we had to completely shift our mindset into the English. But thank you for coming on. We're both Colombian. This is amazing. You're the second Colombian ever on the show. And
Awesome.
I wanted to start off maybe not recounting how you got to where you are now, but I know that you've been very public and very vulnerable about your mistakes and failures along the way. So maybe we can start off with one of those stories that you've had throughout your career that really encompassed all that learning behind failing, which is something that you've highlighted a lot in your career.
Well, there are so many. Uh, uh, the, I've made so many mistakes that I actually wrote a framework on how to handle them.
Mm.
Now there are, of course, big mistakes that are really expensive, and there are not so expensive mistakes. And in general, by the way, I believe that tech entrepreneurship, which is my focus, is about pursuing the scientific method, which means coming up with an idea, a hypothesis, testing that, and then either validating the hypothesis or invalidating it, right? And invalidating the hypothesis can be considered a mistake. You thought that something was going to work and it did not work. So for that, I actually wrote a framework that we follow very closely on most of the companies I've founded. That allows us to every now and then validate a hypothesis that works well, and then continue iterating on top of that. Now, the most expensive mistakes I've made. It's to this day there is one mistake that there are two potential ways of looking at what was the mistake. So most people recognize me professionally for being an investor in Shark Tank, but more than that, or alternative to that, is being the founder of Voice 123, which is the largest platform for casting voice actors, and Bonnie Studio, which allows companies to outsource creative work at a massive scale, and now Torre, a new kind of professional network. But in between Voice 123 and Bonnie Studio, I actually founded a company called LetMeGo.com. And LetMeGo, most people don't know about it just because people want to talk about the successes, not the failures. But LetMeGo was a very bold idea where we wanted lodging, accommodations, that's hotels, hostels, vacation rentals, to compete for the business of travelers. And so as a traveler, you would submit your itinerary, and then they will actually bid for you in there. And I invested around 3 years of my life and around almost $3 million on the project.
Wow.
Before shutting it down. Now, the big question that to this day I have, and I may never have the definite answer, is whether the mistake was the idea and not doing enough user research and user validation on time, because I didn't do it, or the issue is lack of persistence, that I ended up quitting too early in the process, and having persisted would have allowed me to build something that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do initially, but that today could potentially be one of the largest internet properties out there. But I might never know that. But that was a very big mistake. But since then, what I've done is persist and make sure that not to give up, not to fall in love with the solution, but to fall in love with the and neither with the problem. Some people say you have to fall in love with the problem. I don't think you have to fall in love neither with the idea nor the problem. You have to fall in love with the scientific method and the ideal of impacting as many people as you can. And that means never stopping, and continue and continue and continue and continue.
Yeah, for sure. That's something in this journey that I'm on right now, is what I've learned is persistence is everything. I would not be speaking to you if it wasn't for that. So that's definitely a key lesson that people should take away from this. And I saw in one of your blog posts that you were saying that the reason why so many people, so many young people come up with revolutionary ventures is because they don't have prior bias to things, and it's easier for them to think outside the box. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this topic, particularly why, which biases in particular do you believe that visionaries of the future must get rid of to get radical impact? Or maybe even more specifically, which ones did you have to unlearn during your journey as an entrepreneur, such as these biases that you talk about?
I don't know if I'm good enough yet at unlearning. I know how to do it, but I don't know how good I'm going to be at that. The I'll give you an example, and that was kind of the aha moment that validated that. When we created Voice 123, I was 22 years of age when we came up with the idea of Voice 123.
Wow. Right now, where I am right now.
And we made a lot of decisions that they were not even decisions. They were decisions, but they were not choices. It's not, for example, the business model is not something that we thought, oh, those 3 business models, we're going to go for this one. Or this is the market we are going to go after out of those choices. No, this is simply what we believe we can do, we should do. In retrospective, I realized that many of those decisions, we got lucky with those decisions, because had we choose something different, it would have not worked. But the more you know about the world, the more you understand how the world works, the more you end up realizing that there are many choices for everything. And those choices end up having a cost. On one side, you end up, of course, slowing down your decision process. But on the other hand, those options limit your ability to think different, right? Because let's say that you have no idea how to do something. You're going to work hard at imagining how that could be done. But if you already know of 3 ways of doing something, it's unlikely you're going to end up thinking of a 4th way, which might be the innovative one, right? But you simply are copying what you already know. And so I knew that, but the moment that I realized, damn, this is so inside of us, so intertwined with the way we are. It's when we were doing a research session for Torre, and in Torre, we want to expose people to job opportunities that they really love, right? And what we realize is that to expose you to those job opportunities, we need to get a lot of data points from you, because there are many things that your brain is going to take into account when deciding if something is relevant for you or not. Income expectations, location, the type of job opportunity you want, freelancing, flexible, full time, the mission of the company, the vision of the company, the type of experiences that they expect the candidate to have, the aspirations that they expect the candidate to have, the skills you're going to be able to develop, the cultural fit you may have with the company. If you have people working at the company, or you know people working at the company, or you know people that are interested in working on the company, your personality and the personality of the team that you're going to be working with, etc., etc., etc. Actually, there are a couple of hundreds of factors in there. So we were testing this with a candidate, and the candidate had to go through a set of questions that we could tell he was annoyed at answering the questions, and then we show him a list of job listings, and his immediate guttural reaction. This is a senior software developer with over 20 years of experience. His immediate reaction was, no, you guys are doing this wrong. You need to have search filters on the left-hand side so that I can filter my search results the way job boards are supposed to work. So this is a person that is a software developer that is creating technology, that is, in theory, either innovating or developing something for someone that innovated. Yet, for him, job boards could only work one way. That's it. Like
Yeah.
they couldn't work in a different way. So when you already understand the world, it's difficult for you to think outside of the box, even when you apply first principles. Uh, when you are young, you're forced to apply first principles because you don't know better. You cannot yet apply analogies. The more you know, the more analogies you can apply, and the more mental models you have, which, if they are wrong, or even if they are right, but there might be a righter approach, you're not going to think about them.
Yeah. And another thing that I would add to that is really just, I think when we're younger, maybe we're more prone to ask more questions because we don't know sufficiently about the world. And I think it's the people that maintain that curiosity are able to think differently, such as, I mean, I've seen you in when someone pitches a company, a startup in Shark Tank, you are always like asking questions, trying to understand how it works. What was the thought process behind the company? So how much would you attribute these new ideas to just being curious in general?
The That's that I think that's very important, and yeah, that's yet another reason I agree with you. The older we become, the less curious we become, right? And you simply have to look at a kid and an adult, and you'll see how the kid asks way more questions than the adult in terms of how the world works. In part because the adult might know already many things, but also because people get tired of asking questions, right? So. For example, right, the mouse in here, I know it works and I have an idea of some of the components, but I have no idea of the details of most of the items inside of this mouse. Now, if I were a kid and I already knew everything else about the world, and this is the only thing I didn't know about, there is a high chance I will be really intrigued to understanding how this worked. But as an adult, like there are many things you take for granted. Do I understand the algorithms behind the encryption that Zoom is using right now? I don't. Right? Do you understand why the microphone that you have works better than an alternative microphone because it has certain kind of condensation process or phantom power as opposed to other one? Maybe you do, but most people, they simply look at the reviews in Amazon and they buy the best microphone that they think it's good for them, and that's it, right? So yeah, we lose that willingness to ask questions. But for me, it's actually a hobby. That's what my brain loves to do. I love trying to understand A, how things work, B, what was the thought process of the person that created that. I try to put myself on the shoes of that person, what limitations the person had, what forced the person to do what they did, and in what context the person was. And then I challenge myself, can I think about a better way of doing those things? Would I have come up with a better solution on the shoes of that same person? Or I just have the luxury of looking at it from a different perspective or a different context, and as a consequence, I can come up with a better idea. I,
Yeah.
I love doing that all of the time, and yes, it does help, I believe, when it comes to investing in companies and creating companies.
Yeah. And I'm really intrigued to know what was the thought process behind creating your new startup, Torre. I know that you always been a big proponent of remote work and that it's going to be the future of remote work. What was the thought process behind building this specific platform? And what can you tell us about what you guys are building right now?
Yeah. So, so Torre is a new platform. The value for users as a candidate is we help you identify job opportunities of any kind, remote, location-based, flexible, internships, etc. That we believe you are going to like, that you're going to find fulfilling. And we add a lot of transparency to the process. We show you, even before you apply, how you would rank compared to other candidates, where you rank once you apply, and on which factor how you rank compared to other candidates, and what can you do to improve. You can even see the names of some of the other candidates and go see what we call the genome, which is all of this collection of data points in there that allows us to make those predictions. So it's really engaging and fascinating for people to see and use. Now, why Now, remote work, which is what we are known the most today, it's just the first market that we decided to go after, right? But our goal eventually with Torre is a moonshot, as they called it here in Silicon Valley. Eventually is to have all jobs and all talent. The way that you go to Google and you can search for anything because all information is pretty much in there, right? So we are working on the same, but specifically for work opportunities. So why did I start Torre? The reason it's relatively simple because hiring sucks and finding work sucks. It's potentially the most important thing that people do in their lives for sustainability, for being able to do the many other things they want to do, and it has the potential of being significantly better, but just because of the way we are used to go through that process, it's that it royally sucks for most people. So, but there is yet another reason that which is more regarding the opportunity per se, and that is the internet ended up reducing the asymmetry of information in most areas of human knowledge. So you say that you're 22, so you were born right at the before the dot-com bubble started.
98, yeah.
And in the even in 1998, if you wanted to really learn about a given topic, the first thing you had to do is figure out, okay, what do I have to learn about this topic, right? Doing that took weeks of work because you had to go to one or multiple libraries, ask a bunch of questions, read a lot of books, talk to several professors or experts in the topic. If you really wanted to know about that information at a global scale, that meant international faxes, international phone calls, and that took a significant, again, amount of time. Today, it only takes you a few seconds to do the same. You go online, you perform a search, and within seconds, you know what video you have to watch, what article you have to read, what book you have to buy, what online class you can take, what influencer or expert you have to follow to be on top of that knowledge. So, and it's not the only area of human knowledge where that has happened. Flights, right? So if you want to find, you're based out of Spain, you want to find a flight from Spain to anywhere else. Now it only takes you a few minutes for you to find the best flight for you based on your preferences, your budget, your schedule, your miles, etc., etc. But if I were to ask you, Emilio, who is the best person for you to hire tomorrow? Let's say the best software developer for your startup, or who is the best part-time executive assistant for you, or the best freelance coach for your team. Not only the answer is not going to take minutes, it's not going to take hours, and in most cases, not even days. In most cases, it is going to take you weeks to find the answer and months. But the worst part is not even that, but that the answer is not going to be accurate. You're not going to be able to tell me who is the best software developer for your startup. You're going to be able to tell me out of the few dozen people I was able to talk with in reference to this opportunity, this is the best person for my company. So that's a huge asymmetry of information. Most talent is never realized because it is never exposed to the right opportunities. And the internet is yet to deliver on that promise, on that opportunity. We hire today the same way that we hired 50 years ago. You post an ad, you wait for a couple of people to, a few dozen people to apply, and then you pick from those people. And those people, chances are they have to submit applications to up to 100 or so jobs for them to be hired. As with remote work, it's even more extreme, right? Because now you have global liquidity. You're not competing only with people in your own city, you're competing with people all over the place. And as a company, now you're competing with every single company out there. So imagine if other areas of human knowledge work the same. Imagine if to find information about any topic, the only thing you could do is go find 20 books and read them and reach your conclusion out of that. We wouldn't be where we are today, right? So that's why I started Torre. In addition to that, of course, there's a lot of discrimination and many other things that we are tackling, but those are the two core reasons. A, the huge asymmetry of information that with the internet we can reduce, and B, the fact that one of the most important things we do in our lives, which is finding work, it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I love the mission of Torre, what you guys are doing. Thank you so much for giving all this wisdom. I wanted to end off on a note for our young people that right now they might be looking for jobs and they're doing this and applying, having their resume perfect as possible, editing it 5 times. And I wanted to leave people with a little shift in paradigm of what will be the future of work, what will be remote work. And I know this is what you are a big proponent of. And for you, this would be the last question. In the next 5 to 10 years, what does work look like for everyone?
Well, definitely a lot of it is going to be remote. And I've been preaching about that even before the pandemic. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of things. So that's kind of obvious today. Already that answer that a lot of work is going to be remote. Some of the things that people don't realize is how a lot of work is going to be highly international, right? Because most people, when they think remote, they default to remote, but still within my country, right? Oh yeah, many companies do that. Oh, we are going to go remote. Yeah, but we are going to be hiring people only in the country where we are located. And then you ask them, but why? And then they, well, because we can only pay payroll here. And then you ask them, well, yeah, but there are now a bunch of companies allowing you to pay payroll anywhere on earth. So why don't you go global? Okay, we'll think about it. And then there is a process where they finally realize that. So more and more companies are figuring out that they can go hire anywhere. And that's really cool because now people can have a global community of coworkers. In the case of Torre, we are 60 people in our company today. We have team members in Canada, the US, Mexico, in multiple cities in each one of those countries, Guatemala, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, Chile, Algeria, Nigeria, the Netherlands, Portugal, Australia, North Macedonia, or Macedonia, as they call it, Turkey, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So now you know people all over the place, and you get really exposed to this global community of talent opportunities, friends, travel, etc., etc. We are pushing the envelope, but more and more people are going to realize how cool that is and how much that's going to broaden their perspective. You're Colombian. You live in Spain. You have seen a lot of international people, right?
Yes.
But we were surprised. We run an experiment, a survey in Torre a few months ago, and we realized that 90+% of people, they have never had a coworker that is from a different country than they are.
What?
They have never had it. Yeah. When you look at it, right? When you look at it, it makes a lot of sense, right? That you have never had a work experience with a person that comes from a different country.
Because they hire
we take
locally.
it for granted.
Yeah, people hire
Yeah, because
locally.
they hire locally, right? If you, let's say you are, randomly, if you randomly take professions, right? If you work in customer service, who are you going to be your colleagues? If you work as a software developer in a bank, chances are the other software developers you work with are local. If you work at a restaurant as a waitress or as a cook, right? Like, what are the chances that a person from another country is going to be there? Now, of course, if you live in Barcelona or New York City or San Francisco, those are melting pots, but that's only a small portion of the global market. Most people live in a city that is not a tourist destination, not a place where everybody wants to simply go and hang out. So yeah, it's fascinating. So a lot of people are going to be exposed to that during the next few years as a byproduct of remote work.
Yeah, and I really encourage people to go create their genome on Torre. what these guys are building is really amazing and innovative. And Alexander is the mind behind all this creativity and new ways of thinking. So I wanted to thank you so much for your time. I know we went a little bit over, but I just wanted to just acknowledge all your work and thank you for inspiring young people through Shark Tank, through everything that you put out on social media. Really appreciate everything you do. And yeah, hopefully we can repeat this round 2 in the future sometime.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Emilio. And yeah, I invite all of you to join us in torre.co, or you can also shoot me messages in Twitter at my last name, Torrenegra. I'll try to answer all of the messages I get.
Yes. Bueno, hermano, muchísimas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti, buen hombre.